All right, so get ready because this one is pretty wild.
Definitely a deep dive.
Oh yeah. We're going to be talking about this YouTube video from the channel The Shock 13. It's called Kraikanea Thongmai, the Shasha 13.
Okay.
So it's a story narrated by this guy, Thongmai, and it's all about his experiences as well, he calls himself a spiritual advisor.
I see.
And he gets pulled into this, well, it's really like a family tragedy. There's even like black magic possibly involved.
Oh, wow. That sounds intense. And he's telling this story from his point of view, right? Like from his experience.
Yeah, exactly. He's laying it all out, almost like he's trying to figure it out himself as he's telling it.
Right.
So it all starts, like he says, with this call he gets. It's from a woman named Panan, and she lives in New Zealand.
New Zealand. Okay.
And she is convinced that, well, somebody is using black magic against her family.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and she wants his help.
Of course, makes sense.
Yeah, and she doesn't hold back either. She goes into detail about how all these terrible things have been happening, how her family members keep dying.
So, like, what does she say? What kind of details?
Oh, it starts with her father passing away, and she inherits most of his estate. Right.
Oh, okay, so there's inheritance involved.
Yeah, and then her mother and brother, they die suddenly.
Oh, wow.
But it's not just like they get sick, they die. There's all this weird stuff leading up to it.
Strange behavior, you mean?
Yeah, like really strange. And Panan, she's convinced her sister, Panak, is behind it all.
So the sister's the one she thinks is using the black magic.
Exactly. She says it's all about jealousy, that Panak wants the inheritance.
That's a pretty serious accusation. So what's Thongmai's reaction to all of this? I mean, he's a spiritual advisor, right? So he must have encountered all sorts of stuff like this before.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He's actually skeptical at first.
Really?
Yeah, he even says in the video that from his experience, most people who are actually victims of black magic, they don't even realize it's happening.
They don't. That's interesting.
Yeah, they usually blame it on bad luck or other things.
That makes sense. I guess if you don't believe in that sort of thing, it's hard to see it as the cause, right?
Exactly. But how do you think Panan reacted when he didn't immediately jump on board with her theory?
Oh, I bet she wasn't happy.
You got it. She gets really agitated, starts freaking out even more.
So it just adds to that whole unsettling vibe.
Yeah, it leaves Thongmai feeling really uneasy, even though he's not sure he believes her.
Almost like he senses there's something more to it than she's letting on.
Yeah, and it turns out he's right, because then he gets another call.
Oh, wow.
And this time, it's from the sister Panak.
No way.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I know, right? This is where it gets really interesting. Okay, so now we have both sisters calling Thongmai. That's wild.
Right. Like, what are the chances?
And to make things even weirder, he says their voices sound super similar.
Oh, come on, really?
Yeah, he mentions it specifically. It kind of adds to that whole creepy feeling of the story.
For sure. Okay, but what does Panak actually say? Like, what's her side of this whole mess?
Well, buckle up because it's about to get even crazier. Panak flips the script completely. She says Panan is the one who's been lying this whole time.
Whoa, hold on. So she's saying Panan is the one who's been jealous and plotting against everyone.
Exactly. She claims it goes all the way back to their childhood. Apparently, Panan always resented her siblings, and she's the one who's been trying to get rid of them.
Wow, that's a huge twist. So basically been each pointing the finger at the other, claiming to be the victim.
Right, and remember, at this point, Thongmai has no idea who to believe. He's got these two conflicting stories, both from women who sound almost identical.
I can't even imagine being in that position. Talk about a headache. But wait, didn't you say something about Thongmai experiencing some weird stuff himself?
Yeah, so this is where the story takes a turn from, like, family trauma into something much darker. Thongmai starts having these unsettling things happen to him after those phone calls.
Okay, like what? Give us some examples.
Well, for starters, he keeps hearing knocking on his door late at night.
Classic horror movie stuff.
I know, right? But he says it really happened. Every time he checks, there's no one there.
Spooky.
And it doesn't stop there. He has this vivid dream where he sees a woman dressed in all black just standing on his balcony.
Oh, no.
And she's like looking at him all menacingly. Then she suddenly falls from the balcony, like right in front of him.
That's terrifying.
It gets even weirder. He wakes up, goes to check the balcony, and finds bird droppings, like something really was there.
Oh, man. That's creepy. So do you think he thought it was Panan or Panak in his dream?
He doesn't say for sure, but it definitely seems connected to all the stuff going on with the sisters. Like their drama is somehow spilling over into his life.
That's messed up. But doesn't it get even more intense, like with a symbol or something?
You're totally right. So after that dream, he finds this strange symbol written on his window.
Like graffiti?
Not exactly. He describes it as an ominous symbol, and he believes it's a death curse.
A death curse, seriously.
Yeah, and remember, Thongmai knows a lot about spiritual practices, so he's not just some random guy jumping to conclusions. He's convinced someone is trying to use black magic to harm him.
Wow. So now, not only is he caught in the middle of this crazy family feud, but he might be a target himself.
Exactly. Talk about bad timing. So what does he do? Well, he turns to his father's collection of ancient texts. He's looking for information about this curse, how to break it, how to protect himself.
Okay, so he's not just sitting around freaking out, he's actually taking action.
Yeah, he's using his knowledge to fight back. But before we get into that, there's another twist in the story.
Seriously. Another one?
Yep. Remember Kunfai, that former employee of Pinnock who called him earlier? She calls him again.
Okay, and what does she have to say this time?
Well, this is where things get really interesting. She basically drops a bomb that changes everything.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What is it?
Kunfai reveals that Pinan was adopted. She wasn't actually a biological child of the family.
Whoa, wait, what? Are you serious? That changes everything.
Right, and it suddenly put a whole new spin on Pinan's behavior.
Yeah, like maybe that's why she was so resentful of her siblings.
Exactly. All those years of feeling like an outsider could explain why she lashed out, why she accused Pinnock of all those horrible things.
It's like a whole new layer of the story has been revealed.
But hold on, does Kunfai say anything about the black magic stuff? Like, is there any evidence that Pinan might actually be involved in that? Yeah, actually she does. Kunfai describes a hidden room in the family's house. Apparently it was used for some kind of rituals.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's pretty creepy.
Right. It definitely backs up Pinnock's claims about Pinan dabbling in dark magic.
So at this point, we have Pinan, who we thought was the victim, potentially being the mastermind behind everything, driven by years of resentment and possibly using black magic.
And we have Pinnock, who claimed to be the victim but might have been manipulating things from beyond the grave.
Seriously, this is like a tangled web of crazy. How can anyone possibly know what really happened?
It's a total mind-bender, right? And it gets even wilder. Kunfai tells Thongmai that Pinan has been committed to a psychiatric hospital.
Wait, what? Seriously?
Yeah, she implies that it's all connected to the black magic stuff, like maybe it backfired on Pinan and drove her insane.
That's intense. So is that the end of the story? Is Pinan locked away, paying for her crimes?
Well, not exactly. It's not that clear-cut. Thongmai is left with more questions than answers. He believes that Pinnock's spirit might have protected him from the curse, but he's still haunted by everything that happened. He can't understand why he was targeted in the first place, and he's left wondering about Pinan's true mental state.
I can't believe how much the story has escalated.
It's a wild ride, that's for sure. So, wow, where do we even begin to unpack all of that? I mean, we started with this idea of black magic and family drama, but then it became this whole other thing with Pinan's past, her possible mental breakdown. And, I mean, who knows what really happened? It's like we went down a rabbit hole and ended up in a completely different world.
Right. It just kept getting more and more complicated, and Thongmai is stuck right in the middle of it, trying to make sense of it all. Even with all his experience with the spiritual stuff, he's left with more questions than answers.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if maybe sometimes it's better not to know too much, but even if he did manage to protect himself with that counter curse, the whole thing seems to have really shaken him up.
I bet. It's got to be a heavy burden to carry, especially when you're dealing with something that most people wouldn't even believe. And then there's the question of what happens to Pinan now?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is she really just a victim of her own dark magic? Or is there something else going on? We may never know the full story.
Exactly. And that's kind of the point, isn't it? This whole deep dive has been about looking beyond the surface, questioning everything, and realizing that sometimes there just aren't any easy answers.
It definitely makes you think twice about what you believe. I mean, both Pinan and Pinnock were so convinced that black magic was real, and it seems like that belief really did have power over them.
Right? Whether or not there's actually any truth to it, the way they thought about it shaped their actions and ultimately their lives. It's a powerful reminder that what we believe can have very real consequences.
It also shows how important it is to be careful about who you trust. I mean, Thongmai was just trying to help, but he ended up getting caught in this whole mess.
For sure. It's like a cautionary tale for anyone who thinks they can just dabble in the supernatural without any risk. There's always the chance that you'll uncover something you're not prepared for.
Well, I think it's safe to say that this has been one of our most mind-bending deep dives yet. We started with a simple story about black magic and family trauma, but it ended up being so much more than that. It's a story about secrets, lies, betrayal, and the power of belief.
And it's a story that will probably stay with us for a long time. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely going to be thinking twice about answering any unknown numbers for a while.
Me too. Well, on that note, thanks for joining us on this journey into the unknown. Until next time, stay curious, keep questioning, and maybe keep a nightlight on, just in case.